so many questions for you. I'm going to try and be brief so we can get through. And what's really clear is parents really, really want answers. So let's talk about September. Are you committed to all pupils returning in September? Will that be 5 days a week as it was before?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. How are you going to achieve that?
Now, what we're going to be doing is just later on this week, and I'm not trying to evade the question, but we're just going to be having the opportunity to set out very clearly as to what our full return plan is for September. I'd love to be able to break the news as to exactly what it looks like here, but you're just going to have to wait an extra few days.
I'm still going to ask you questions.
Well, I totally appreciate that, but you'll equally understand that just not in a position before we've finally concluded the last bits of our sort of consultation with those important stakeholders, and we've been really clear we're going to be releasing this plan at the end of the week.
Will it include social bubbles, classroom bubbles?
Well, we recognise we want to see every child back into school. We want to see all year groups back into school. We've got rapidly approaching 1.5 million children actually going back into school at the end of last week. I imagine those numbers are going to grow this week and grow the following week as more children return to school. Parents' confidence about what their children are receiving increases, and actually schools get comfortable about what they're offering. But we're going to have to make changes as to how it currently operates. We've seen a relaxation of social distancing rules, and we're going to see the return of full class sizes for primary schools and for secondary schools, because we do need to ensure that every child is benefiting from the education that we also richly value.
So you saying that classroom sizes will be up to 30 then?
We're saying that we'll see a return of full class sizes, yes.
Right. Lisa wants a really clear answer. She says, will there be social distancing in schools? Yes or no? And you've just told us that these will be full classroom sizes. So social distancing, yes or no?
So effectively there'll be an extension of that bubble. And what you've already seen is schools operating with bubbles of 15. That will increase up to a full class size, but we'll be sharing all the details a little bit later on this week.
Just on that, a science teacher, Suzanne, has asked us, how will that...
Sorry to cut over you. I didn't mean to be rude. But, really to reassure Lisa, the most precious thing that any of us have is our children, and their well-being and their safety is every one of our top priorities. And that's why we're taking a really cautious, really careful approach. We've seen, as I say, almost 1.5 million children returning to school in a safe way, and that's the approach that we continue to take. But we do need all children to be benefiting from just a world-class, brilliant education that we all want to see every child benefit from.
Let's ask you this question from Suzanne, who's a science teacher. She says, how will the idea of bubbles work in secondary schools when pupils move between sets, for example, or different options? How will it work?
Well, it's going to be more complex within secondary schools. We'll be setting out a clear set of procedures and a hierarchy of controls to make sure that the risks of infections are absolutely minimised. But you're right to highlight the fact that people, I've got 2 secondary school-aged daughters, and they crisscross all the way through the school. But we're looking at how we minimise the risk and spread of infection. That's what we're going to be sharing details with later on in the week.
If you have classes of 30, we're all aware some schools will not have classrooms that can fit 30 in with social distancing. So will that just go?
Well, what we've always done, and I'm sure you've read our guidance that we actually issued sort of back in May time, is we've always said that it's actually the hierarchy of controls. It's basically the key elements of reducing the amount of transmission points. It's about the actions that are undertaken to sort of reduce the vectors of transmission that can exist within a school that creates the safety for both pupils and staff. It's not about 1 metre, it's not about 2 metres. It's about actually a whole set of different controls and different actions that ensure that schools can operate in a safe and secure environment. And that's what we want to see right across. Well, it's what we are seeing right across the school estate, but we want to see it benefit every single child right across the country. And I don't know about you, but I've got a year 10 who's had the opportunity of starting to go back into school for the first time, and you can already see the transformation in them, the benefit that they're having in terms of being with other pupils, the benefits of being with their teachers. We've got to have this for every single child.
And just with respect, you say you're being really clear in your advice. We've had so many messages from head teachers, from teachers who say it is just not clear.
Well, what we'll be doing at the end of this week, setting out further advice as to what the full return of all pupils looks like, and giving clear steers to how schools should operate. But the fundamental is that every child right across the country will be returning to school in September of all year groups. So 1.5 million are already benefiting from that. Every single child will be.
And just sorry to ask you once again on that clarity, is 2 metres needed or not needed?
We've already said as a government 2 metres will be moving down to 1 metre, but we'll be taking a different approach in schools, making sure that we reduce the chances and risks of transmission of coronavirus within schools, but recognising the unique challenges within schools that are different to what you'd see in a pub or a retail setting.
I'm Gavin Williamson, Secretary of State for Education. Thanks for your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.